CCT have unanimously rejected the 4% pay increase, and for the first time they have been speaking. Let's first listen to the Greater Accra Regional Chairman of NAGRAT, Rene Senyo Kwame Koko, who spoke at the 6th Quadrennial Regional Delegates Conference of NAT.
Considering the time in which we are, the theme is a very important thing. Looking at the various challenges that members are facing in this country. First, and I want to mention again, the 4% pay rise. I call on TUC to reject this 4% increase. Failure to pay responsibility allowance to teachers, delay in release of statutory payments like capitation grants, promotion exam and its problems. Our problems are many, and we urge the reps of government here to listen to them.
And so that is the Greater Accra Regional Chairman of NAGRAT, Rene Senyo Kwame Koko, speaking at the 6th Quadrennial Regional Delegates Conference of NAT. Now, the Coalition of Concerned Teacher Unions say the 4% increase is woefully inadequate and will bring untold hardship on the ordinary teacher. Now, here's the chairman of CCT, Ken Gelly Johnson. He also spoke at the same event.
The teachers are under siege in this country, and we all know that. We see it clearly, and as leaders, as if our hands have been tied. A whole lot of things have been dumped at our doorsteps, and we look on and observe as if nothing's at stake. Let me make this passionate appeal to government officials who are here, that we have taken too much from them. Very soon, when we shall explode, they will not be able to contain what we're able to do. Let me mention that the JHS teachers, it's a special concern to me. They have been in school for almost 6 months. I do not know which kind of semester is run for 6 months in this our country, except JHS. And we look on all these things are happening. We are pleading. For Christ's sake, the students are also human beings. They are tired of being in school for all this world. This will not bring results because the brain must rest for the results to be attained. Long stay in school doesn't bring results necessarily. Something must be done as early as possible. We cannot use the COVID-19 as excuse to run every kind of program and dump it at the teachers to implement. We are sorry.
So that is Ken Gelly Johnson, the regional chairman of the Concerned Teachers Association. Like I mentioned, they spoke at an event organized by the Ghana National Association of Teachers. Of course, NAT agrees with the position of the two other teacher unions. But just today, a group calling itself the Coalition of Aggrieved Public Sector Workers also expressed their displeasure with the base pay as announced by government. Now, they had one message for their leaders: go back and renegotiate.
Leadership of our noble coalition and all of us have embarked on a very important no retreat, no surrender action against the leadership of labor unions in Ghana who do not serve the collective interests of Ghanaian workers but their interests. Our message to the heads of all labor unions this morning is simple. We are telling them, Dr. Anthony Yauba, who is the chairman of TUC and the Secretary General of CLOSAC, Bamford Addo, our message to them this morning is this. The leadership of TUC and organized labor, headed by Dr. Tony Ba and Bamford Addo of CLOSAC, who represented the labor unions in Ghana at the tripartite committee meeting, who signed the approved 4% salary increment for public sector workers, should kindly go back, I repeat, should kindly go back to the tripartite committee meeting for renegotiation of the 4% salary increment. If the leadership of TUC and organized labor cannot speak our language and serve the collective interests of Ghanaian workers, then Ghanaian workers have no interest in their leadership. If they cannot serve us right, they have no right to lead us. Ladies and gentlemen, until the leadership of our labor unions, headed by Dr. Yao Anthony Ba of TUC and Bamford Addo of CLOSAC, return to the tripartite committee to review the inhumane 4% salary increment of workers in Ghana to a reasonable percentage, we are not going to allow them to lead us as leaders of our unions.
That is the lead convener for the Agreed Public Sector Workers, Norbert Dodbochi, speaking there. Now, that's not all that is happening on the labor front. Two other unions have been speaking, and that is the Senior Staff Association of the University of Ghana and the Federation of University Senior Staff Association of Ghana. They have been speaking about their conditions of service. We'll go into that shortly, but the TUC yesterday held a news conference defending its negotiation of the minimum wage. The General Secretary, Dr. Yalban, says it could have been worse.
The idea was to explain to our members and the general public why we accepted the outcome of the negotiation. There's so much out there that we have sold off. We wanted workers to understand that the leaders that they have selected to lead them are not people who have been selected to make sure they are shortchanged. No. We went there to negotiate, and we negotiated in good faith. We negotiated for a very long time, held so many meetings. At the end of the day, what we got appears to be unsatisfactory to many of our members. We ourselves were not happy. But the reason we accepted what we got was because government added something that we thought was very valuable. One was that no public sector worker will be declared redundant because of COVID. And we thought that was good enough. The other is that government will not freeze employment in the public service. So government is opening up spaces there to employ more people, young people. The third was that every worker will receive the vaccination against COVID. Then the last was that government will not continue to delay the payment of our second tier and the first year pensions. And we thought these four conditions were good enough to add to the little we got in terms of pay increase, and which is creating a lot of problems. But we are hoping that after this press conference and after this explanation, workers will understand that the first thing you want is to keep your job. And also, even if you have a job, your daughter, your son, your niece, your nephews, they are all at home. If our own needs, also to the entire country. And I think that was good. We would have wished that we had received more. In fact, it could have been worse. Because when we started the negotiation, our fear was that government would come and tell us that this year there will be no increase because of some advice government was getting from its advisors. But government came and negotiated with us in good faith. And we got something that was not fully satisfactory. But with the conditions attached, we believe that it will go a long way to help all of us as Ghanaians.
And so you had there the Secretary General of the TUC, Dr. Yalban. Let's go on to the phone lines now. We're joined by the PRO of the TUC, Najele Adefio. Madam, we're grateful for your time here on Top Story. The TUC boss, Dr. Yalban, was hoping that after that press conference yesterday, Ghanaian workers will understand the position and why they accepted what they accepted at the negotiation table. But it appears that the reasons you gave are not good enough for them. Your reaction?
You want me to say to that?
Well,
which Ghanaian workers told you the reasons are not good enough for them?
You heard from the Nagrat, you heard from...
I couldn't hear anything. Nagrat was there with organized labor, NAT was there with organized labor, who was there, CCT was there. And you asked me earlier, and I tried to explain to you that I know that Accra and NAT had their meeting yesterday in their Greater Accra office, and they expressed dissatisfaction. So I believe that if there is anything further, you need to speak with them. Perhaps they would give you their reason. But if you ask me, which Ghanaian workers told you they are not happy with, I don't know. But
you are just admitting to the fact that you know that there's some dissatisfaction within the unions, and I'm saying to you that these unions are asking you
to speak with them so they explain to you why there's dissatisfaction, because their leadership. This organized labor meeting press conference we held yesterday was chaired by the NAT president, Mrs. Philippa Larson. You know, so if Greater Accra has a problem, you need to get to Greater Accra to speak with.
Well, they have the backing of their national leadership. That we know for a fact. And we are
Yes,
asking.
that's for sure. But you need to speak with the individuals who have a problem.
No,
But
but if you
what their
know,
grievances are.
no, Madam, if you know and admit that the leadership of these, the national leadership of these,
You say that
teacher
again.
groups, I'm saying if you know and admit that the national leadership of these unions back the concerns raised by the members on the ground, why do you want me to go back to the leadership for further explanation? They are saying that the explanation you gave them is not satisfactory. You raised.
Line is so
Hello, madam. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's difficult. I'm trying hard to hear you, but the line is so faint.
Yes, I am saying that these teacher
Yes.
unions are raising concerns, albeit at the regional levels, and you have admitted that the national leadership back the concerns. It is coming back to you that how do you respond to these issues being raised by the workers?
You know, when there's structures in every union, you know, no matter how small, when there are going to be these meetings, the structures would be informed by the larger union. All the structures would be informed. So when one of the structures has a problem, the structures would need to get, you know, the consensus from every one of them. That is how it operates in the unions. You know, so if they have an issue, like I keep saying, and I think I've said this, you know, you need to speak with Greater Accra. Their national leadership is saying this, and they have this issue. Perhaps they would be able to, better explain what their concerns are, the 4%, you know, whatever it is that they want addressed.
But the concern is basic. 4% is not enough. That is all they are saying.
Yes. You know, when the negotiations started, the public sector union went with an amount, you know, a level at which to negotiate. And these leaders go together with their technical people to do the negotiations. So they went with their 15% and they ended up with the amount which the Secretary General pointed out, you know, yesterday. And they looked at the prevailing circumstances, the economy, the state economy, etc. And you have in these negotiations at the tripartite, workers, government, yes. You know, so if you get to a certain percentage, which is the 4% which has been taken, well, the added reasons were that you give this 4% and government says, well, we're not going to cause any redundancies for the period. And you have all 700,000 public sector workers stay on the job. Otherwise, if there are going to be any further increments or whatever, even organized labor, when it came to the brass tacks, they said, okay, we want to peg this at 6%, which they didn't get, you know, because the condition was that if we went any further, you know, than the 4%, you're going to lose some of the workers. And rather than lose workers, and you can also bear me out that as an individual worker, myself, yourself, one worker feeds a lot of people in our farm because of the circumstances. And looking at the COVID-19, you know, just getting out of our have even got out of it. They peg this at 4%. The government is saying that, okay, after the period, we're going to inoculate all these 2 million by the close of the year, etc. You know, you would want to keep workers on the job, no matter how little they're taking, rather than have them,
just on that point.
With some of these reasons, you know, you would want to, especially again back, if people still have a problem with that, they must have to, perhaps look at what their problem is again, and then look at, resolving their problems within, and then perhaps if they would move on from there, they do.
You raised the issue of inoculation, and that is one of the four major reasons TUC gave for its negotiation, inoculating all public sector workers. And then there's a fourth one. I have a copy of the press statement here. That is number 3. The fourth one, you talk about government paying all social security contributions regularly without delay. I am wondering why these two and how these two points influence the increase or the negotiations. I mean, these public sector workers are Ghanaians anyway and will be inoculated anyway. Social security is statutory and government must pay. And so how does that influence? If government is saying that it is not going to pay, it's not going to make delays and pay them on time, how is that a negotiation tool when it comes to the base pay and, of course, the minimum wage? Help us understand.
I am sure you have been in this country. And if for nothing at all, you have seen our attitudes towards pensions in general. And I am also sure that you're very well aware of the challenges we have had this far with our pensions. You know, so if government is saying what I think organized labor needs to do, haven't had this come as part of the agreement, it's to monitor and push government to deliver. You know, I don't know how
government has a responsibility towards you.
Look,
government has madam, just a minute.
Listening.
Government has a responsibility towards you, paying your pensions, and it has delayed over the period. Now, government is saying that I will do what the law requires me to do. How does that influence your negotiation for an increase?
The government knows that the law requires government to do this. Does government do this? Does it do this? You answer that question for yourself, and then we would see where we are at with this.
You have told us, and it is very obvious that government doesn't. What
So
I
if
want you to
government
do
saying
is
that
to
it
help
is
us
going
understand how that
it is going
influences
to,
your negotiation.
Pay social security. I think organized labor has the responsibility to hold government to account.
Madam, kindly hold the line for me. Let me go on to the other phone line. We're joined by the lead convener of the Aggrieved Public Sector Workers, Norbert Chi. Norbert, you had the TUC General Secretary there explaining what went into their negotiations. He talks, amongst other things, he raises the issue of job security, for instance, and making sure that there's not a freeze on public employment, and then the issue of vaccinating all public sector workers, plus the issue of paying your pensions on time. Shouldn't that be good reason for you to accept the negotiation, given the times in which we are?
So, good evening to your listeners. So, with all the trained technicians that they went with, this is what they were able to table: that there won't be retrenchment, or there won't be freeze on public sector recruitment. Are they representing unemployed people in the country, or they are representing the workers? That is one question. If that is what they went to the table with, are they representing people that are not employed, or they are representing workers? And secondly, issues of pensions has nothing to do with what we are talking about. If government refuse to pay whatever it has collected into the account of the operators, you go to court and let the court work. So why do you bring this situation into this kind of... It clearly shows that it looks as if, excuse me for my language, they were not fit for the job. Because when you talk about a redundancy comes with a package. And we all know worldwide, even in Ghana here, there are organizations that are practicing so. You go to Newmont Ghana, Anglo-Gold Ghana, you go to other organizations. They don't even want that, because if you want to go through that trend, it means that you would have to multiply maybe by 3-4 times what the person will be taking home and pay today. And that is not possible for government to run. So all these things they went to the table with are just things that you can't think of. I think they went playing.
But Norbert, you do admit that we are in a pandemic and the economy has been battered as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and TUC appears to be very sympathetic towards that as well. Shouldn't you be considering this even as you make these demands?
You heard recently that Article 71 office holders, their salaries were increased, some from 50, 60, 70. Of which economy were they using? Which economic figures were applied to those percentages? Are people not in this country? Didn't they hear? Didn't they see? Or their increase, the percentages increase, or the percentage increase in their salaries were not subjected to the economic figures we currently have in this country. No, what is wrong is wrong. The people went and they never represented workers. They went for their parochial interest.
No, but you have a request
to tell us what they are telling us now. No, the things they have mentioned, which of these things help in negotiating an increase, like telling me that you accepted 4% because you wanted all how do we call it? All public sector workers to be vaccinated. Look.
We'll come to that, but we still have the PRO of the TEC on the line. Norbert, you made a request to your leadership. You're asking them to go back to the negotiation table. Let me put that to the PRO, Madam Adefi, who is on the line with us. Is that something that you're willing to consider, going back to the negotiation table on these matters?
You know, I don't know whom you're speaking with. Who is this?
He is the convener of the aggrieved workers, public sector workers.
Okay, but you told me at the beginning of the interview that you were going to, you had teachers' representatives. And
we had heard from them on the sound, but we are not reaching them. Yeah, but we had played the sound just to make the point.
This is not just TUC, it is organized labor, and it is made up of NAT, NAGRAT, CCT, TEWU, GFL, Ghana Federation of Labor. It's made up of CROSAC. It's made up of all the associations. So if we don't have anything to, banter on with this group, they think they are. And to begin with, it is not just labor that goes there to say, okay, give us this. We all know, perhaps they need to go back and find the information, if they don't already have it, that we have issues with payment of pensions. And today, in this country, people are laid off just anyhow. Maybe he needs to go and find that information.
Are you saying simply that it is finished? There's no possibility of going back to renegotiate?
That is not a point to negotiate on. Hello? Then I'm sorry he hasn't been around.
Will you consider the request of going back to renegotiate?
Those who have the problem are the group you mentioned. I think that if they have a group that is there, they could go to government and do negotiations on their behalf.
Thank you very much. That's the public relations officer of the TUC, Na Ayele Adefio, speaking to us there. Now, I mentioned earlier that there are other issues on the labor front. The Senior Staff Association of the University of Ghana and the Federation of University Senior Staff Association of Ghana have also threatened to withdraw their service within the next 72 hours over what they describe as unfavorable conditions of service. We can hear from the chairman of the SSA University of Ghana, Zakaria Mohammed.
Government is going beyond or overstepping some boundaries of the labor law, on the basis of which Parliament of Ghana will be petitioned, and a nationwide strike resume.
And that is the national chairman of the SSA, University of Ghana, Zakaria Mohammed. That's it for Top Story, brought to you by Gassam, the nation builder, and Vodafone. Together we can. Top Story Newsnight comes up shortly after these messages.
55, 78, 58, 70. Hey.